Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and today's video. In this one, I'm taking part in Dena Tolefson's Silver Beard Art Challenge and creating a portrait using charcoal for a change. I'll also be showing you how easy, effective and mess-free this medium can actually be to work with. I'm also going to be drawing on Strathmore Toney Gray paper, but I'll put details of this and all the other art supplies you'll see me use in the description box below if you want to go and check them out. So all you had to do for this challenge was to create a piece of art incorporating either the colour silver or a bearded man and upload the video today using the hashtag SILVERBEARDCHALLENGE. If you haven't come across Dena before, then do go and check out her channel and I'll put a link to it in the description box below. So for my piece I decided to go with the bearded man option, but to begin with I couldn't find a reference image that inspired me much. Luckily though, after a bit of searching on Pixabay, I came across a photograph of none other than the artist Claude Monet. I love Monet's paintings, and even though the reference photo wasn't that brilliant in terms of clarity and detail, thinking about the art Monet created inspired me to attempt his portrait for this challenge. I began by printing off the reference photo from Pixabay and used the grid method to draw out an accurate outline sketch onto my grey paper using just a regular graphite pencil. I then lightened up my sketch using a kneaded eraser so the outline wouldn't show through on my final drawing, and with that I was good to go. Now charcoal can be a messy medium to use, and it's often this that puts people off even considering it for their artwork or even giving it a try. But there are several things you can do to eliminate or at least minimise this problem. Firstly, when I'm drawing in charcoal, being right-handed, I try to work left to right and top to bottom, which reduces the chance of your hand smudging the drawing. If you're left-handed, you simply work right to left instead. Secondly, I wanted to put in a bit of darker shading behind Monet's head on my drawing, and to do this I used a tissue to apply the charcoal, as you can see me doing here. Some people choose to use their fingers for these larger areas, but using a tissue avoids any potentially oily finger marks on your paper, as well as helps to keep things a lot less messy. There are also other inexpensive materials that you can use to either apply or blend your charcoal. I like to use a cheap flat paintbrush, as this allows you to apply or blend the charcoal really smoothly and is great for getting a smooth texture to the skin. I also like to use blending stumps, which are pretty cheap and available in several different sizes as well. These are great for smaller detailed areas like facial features. And lastly, I use cotton buds, which are also really good at smoothing out those smaller areas, and you may even have some of these lying around at home already. But with the background around Monet's head shaded in, I turn my attentions to his face, making sure to place a piece of kitchen towel or paper under my hand before I start. This is another tip to help prevent your hand from smudging your drawing. I'm using the medium 2B charcoal pencil here to first fill in the darkest parts of the eyes and nose. I've already got the grey colour of the paper as my mid-tone value, so adding in these darkest values first will help to make shading in the rest of the face a lot easier and more accurate too. With the darkest areas mapped out, I then go in with an old flat paintbrush and begin to blend out some of that charcoal. This lightens it up a bit but helps to push it into the paper, and I'll add further layers to darken it back up again as I go through the drawing. Already though, with the mid-tone of the paper and the addition of the first layer of charcoal, you can see the portrait quickly begin to take shape. Then I start to add in the lightest shades with a white charcoal pencil. There is a lot of bright light coming in from the top and right hand side of Monet's face, so I concentrate my lightest values here, and will pick out the highlights on the top of his ears as well. Moving down the face, I pencil in the top of the nose and start to rough in a few lighter marks on the beard. Monet has a very full and curly beard in the reference photo, and at first glance it could look a bit daunting, but the great thing about charcoal is that it's very forgiving. For example, you can lift out areas with a kneaded or regular eraser, and you can add several layers to build up depth. You can even add white charcoal over dark charcoal, so bearing all that in mind, I wasn't too worried about how I was going to render it. Now, with the darkest areas mapped out as well as the lightest values, the face begins to take shape even more and gain a sense of depth. So next, I turn my attentions to the bottom half of the picture and use the soft 4B charcoal pencil to fill in some of the beard and jacket. I use the softer pencil because it lays down easier over this larger area and is nice and dark too. To blend this first layer out, I'm going to go in with the tissue again, as it's a lot quicker for larger areas like the forehead here. But where I want more control, I use the cotton bud or blending stump. For the beard, I'm now applying some darker charcoal that's left over on my blending stump. It's not as intense as drawing straight onto the paper with the pencil, and it's more controlled than using a paintbrush or tissue. For this area, I think I'm going to need to add several layers for the beard to have the full thick look that I want, so I don't want to go too dark too soon. This is personal preference though, as some people might prefer to completely finish one area at a time before moving on to the next bit. Once I'd made a start on the moustache, I decided to take a step back and have another look at the reference image before carrying on. Close up, there's a lot of fine detail, but I wanted to look at the overall areas of light and dark from a distance before putting these details in. I noticed that overall the beard was darker on the left hand side and lighter on the right, so I used a tissue again to darken up the values to match. Then it was back to the blending stump again and another layer of charcoal. I started applying charcoal at the top under the nose and began to think more about the length and direction of hair growth to make sure that my drawing looked accurate and realistic. That's not to say I drew in every hair exactly as in the photo though, as that would be really time consuming and a bit unnecessary, but I tried to look at the hair in terms of sections or clumps to simplify the drawing, and it does seem to work okay and keeps the process fun. From then on, I continued layering on charcoal, alternating between adding charcoal pencil and blending or drawing with the blending stump until I'd worked my way down the whole length of the beard using wiggly lines to mimic the curly hair. So at this stage I was pretty happy with my values on the beard, but I still wanted to add in some individual hairs and a bit more detail. and what I really needed here was a nice sharp point. Up until now I'd used a sanding block to sharpen the pencils, as it's less likely to cause breakage and waste than using a regular sharpener. But I was really interested to see if trying my favourite crank handle sharpener would give me the nice sharp point I was after, without breaking the charcoal, so I thought I'd test it out. So this is my Derwent Superpoint crank handle sharpener, which I use to get really sharp points to all my pencils and colour pencils. I did try it with a few turns of the handle to start with, as I didn't want it to break, and it did seem to work really well. I did the same for the white charcoal pencil, and then I was ready to add in some details. I started back at the top of the drawing again with the eyebrows. There wasn't an awful lot of detail to these in the reference photo, but just by filling in a few individual hairs, it made them look a bit more natural and realistic. I was also able to darken up the creases around the eyes and add more detail to the eye in general, which I was really pleased about. Then it was back to blending and smoothing these lines out, this time with a very small paper tortillon rather than the larger blending stump. I added a few more lines too, and blended those out as well. I went in and darkened up the nostrils, and added those all-important highlights into the eyes with the sharp white pencil. I'm going to add some fine white hairs to the beard too, but before I do this I wanted to pull out some lighter grey ones using my Mono Zero eraser. I use this just like I would with a pencil, so apply a light pressure and simply working in the direction of the hair growth I can lift out some of that charcoal and reveal the grey of the paper underneath, which creates some fine grey hair detail. If you lift the eraser up at the end of each stroke too, you can get a nice tapered end to your hairs, which all helps add to that natural look and texture of real hair. I add some stray flyaway hairs at the outside edge of the beard too, and try to make sure that the hairs aren't too uniform or even, or else they won't look realistic. I continue over the rest of the beard in this way, using my wiggly lines as I did before with the charcoal. The only difference being that every so often I have to clean the end of the eraser on the kitchen roll to remove any charcoal build-up before I can carry on. With this done, it was time to add in some of the white hairs I could see in the beard, so it was back to my white charcoal for this. I did also alternate between this and the regular charcoal pencil at this point to get back some of those darkest darks. I kept going with the fine hair detail until I'd built up enough depth and texture in the beard that I was happy. Then I added a bit more definition to the hair. Most of this was really lacking in much detail as his head was in the light, so all I did was to lift up a small amount of charcoal from my scrap piece of paper and apply some very pale hair detail using my smallest tortillon again. I added a few stray hairs using the white charcoal pencil to the outside edges of the hair too, and then with that, this piece and the Silver Beard Challenge was complete. I'm really pleased with how this one turned out and surprised at how easy drawing Monet's beard turned out to be, and I think a lot of that has to do with charcoal being such a flexible medium to work with, along with using the grey paper, which gives you your mid-tones straight away and makes gauging the lightest and darkest values a lot easier from the start. This would be great if you were a beginner to any sort of dry medium. Let me know in the comments if you've used charcoal before in your drawings or a tone grey paper and how you got on. I think it's a great art supply to work with, and hopefully the tips and techniques I've used today have shown you that it doesn't have to be messy. And with less mess, there's less stress. So if you haven't tried it before, then why not give it a go if you get the chance, and let me know how you get on by commenting below. Also, if you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up, comment and subscribe to see more art videos like this one. I really do appreciate your support and love hearing your thoughts and experiences. Don't forget as well to go and check out Dena Tolefson's channel and give some support to the other artists who've taken part in the Silver Beard Challenge as well. I'm really looking forward to seeing what everyone else creates. But that's it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, have a great weekend, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, bye.